everyone. So sorry for the late start. We had some technical difficulties. I appreciate your patience. And I want to welcome everyone to Presently Aqui, my very first webinar. I can't believe that today has arrived and I can share my passion with all of you. This mindful project will serve as a platform for the Latinx community and friends to discover for the first time or dive deeper into mindfulness, or as I like to call it, mindfulness. I created Presently Aquí because I realized that mindfulness is a foreign concept in our Latin community as well as others. And in there, I saw a void that I was able to fill, seeing that I had all the right ingredients in front of me to create this wonderful project. So I thought, how could I not? Especially since I'm unemployed because of the unexpected pandemic that we are currently living through, there was a real need for this. I've been practicing mindfulness for 15 years now, and it's helped me in ways I've never imagined. Through the years, I've learned how to heal my past traumas, which is a never ending process. It helped me rediscover myself to a point of self acceptance, expanded self awareness, and most importantly, self love, which affects all of my relationships in my life. So my plan for Presently Aquí is every month I will tackle all your basic mindfulness essentials with the help of three expert panelists, and my third panelist will always represent a different race or ethnicity so that they may be the bridge to their community to ours, and also followed by a Q&A with our audience. And I need to mention, very importantly, that once I decided to become open to this great mindful platform, I've met some amazing people, and existing friendships also started to show up for me. And I want to give thank you to all of you to sharing your wisdom, your time, and your love to helping this project come to life. I am extremely grateful to Jai Vargas, the founder of the Latinista, for sponsoring my very first webcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those who aren't aware with the Latinista, they are a national network of Latinas and women of color invested in career and leadership development. You can check them out at the Latinista on all social media platforms. So now, as we begin my first webinar, today on Presently Aquí, we will be exploring what is mindfulness and why is it important, how it affects you and your family dynamic, why is it important in your work setting, and in honor of closing out Hispanic Heritage Month, celebrating this past World Mental Health Day on the 10th, I now present to you the panelists of Presently Aki's first webinar. I first would like to welcome Luz Gonzalez. Luz is the CEO and founder of EQ Refined, and it is a company that ensures the overall well-being and sustainability of each individual worker and their team's interaction with each other through emotional intelligence, and also my brainstorming partner. So I welcome Luz. Hi, Luz. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Claudia, for having me, and thank you for creating this platform for all of us to speak. Yes, I'm from EQ Refine. I formed EQ Refine because I noticed that there was a need. The need that I noticed is we need to have effective communication, and that is using the tools of emotional intelligence. I've been diving deep into emotional intelligence and learning more about me and how my emotions have guided my decisions throughout my life. And it's so different when I'm conscious of it. So that's what I do. And I introduce all of you to dive in a little deeper to get aware of your own emotions and how you're making decisions from that point of view.
Yeah, and Jai introduced us both, so ever since then, amigas.
Yes.
Oh, great.
And
So
by the way, I
next,
love the
yes.
mindfulness.
The mindfulness.
Can I
That
just
was you
say?
and me together. We need that. That's great.
Mindfulness.
Because that's what it
Yes.
is. It's this flow within yourself, and then we get stuck. There's not a flow happening, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's invite our next guest, which is Brian Olegario Arbeláez, or as he goes by Siri Karta Singh. Brian is a certified Kundalini yoga teacher, artist, web developer, and a family friend. I'd like to welcome Brian. Hello, Brian. I know we've been having some trouble
Hello.
connecting with Brian. Hey, Brian.
Here,
Welcome.
wholeness and peace. How are you?
Great, great.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yes. We can't see you, but we can hear you,
Great
and
to
that's
be here. Great to have you.
fantastic.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Great, great.
Um, Hopefully it'll pick up and it'll flow in.
I hope so. Let's hope it'll work out. It'll be
So, I'd like to introduce myself. I am, hello? How about now? Is it okay now?
yeah. We can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So, I am a Kundalini yoga teacher and a graphic designer and web developer, and I practice a style of yoga that has very little to do with poses.
Oh, we lost him a little bit. That's what we've been having trouble. But he'll come back. He will come back. So let's. I'm gonna introduce our third panelist. And our third panelist, or our ally panelist for the month, is Stan Pearson II. And Stan is an award winning speaker, celebrity mindset consultant, 6-time author, and a big reason why this webinar exists. Yes, Stan. Yes, I'm giving you all of that. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. So I know we've been having trouble with Brian, so he's just gonna come in and out as we go along. Unfortunately, that's just how it happens. We are in the technological era. It is what it is. Um, so great, thank you both. Well, and Brian, if when he comes in, if he can hear us, thank you all for coming. And so I am beside myself that I am live and I have you guys on here. And now we're going to tackle the most important question. What is mindfulness and why is it so important? So I will start, and it's just basically mindfulness in dictionary is just what your mind is focused on. And then it goes from there. So I will let Luz continue onto my trinkle effect here. Hey, Luz,
Can you
can
hear
you?
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, great. Okay. This is exactly what we're talking about. How many times in your life does everything go exactly as you planned it, moment
Never.
by moment? Especially when you're something so passionate about, when it's something you're so passionate about and you want to present it to the world. And so, what happens during these moments when life happens? This is the moment when you have mindfulness. You got to take a moment and stop.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things that I've realized is I'm not aware of how many times I breathe. So that means I'm not aware of how many moments have passed me by where I am technically unconscious,
Right.
because we're all functioning adults, right? We're functioning, we get up, we get our coffee, we prepare, we sit down, we read our email, and we're here. But how many times are we in the flow of really breathing in life?
Right.
So I would love to introduce the idea that mindfulness is really like a recharge. You charge your phone, your battery in your car needs charging. You charge yourself with a glass of coffee, a cup of coffee. But you need to charge your spirit because your whole spirit is also functioning one in one with your body. And the mindfulness is what you need to really maximize all of this whole experience of life.
Right. Right.
For me, that's what mindfulness is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Stan, are you there?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. Can you hear me?
what is your
Yes.
takeaway on what is mindfulness to you?
It's being willing to be still.
Ooh, all right. If you guys can mute yourselves, I guess, as we go along, so that way we may not have feedback. So if you're not speaking, I guess we can try that.
For sure.
So I guess we'll all mute ourselves and let Stan go
All
on
right.
his mindfulness definition.
It's our willingness to be still. Am I echoing? Sorry for that. Hold on a second.
Take this moment right now, if you're in the audience, and breathe. You're muted, Claudia.
Wow.
Hello?
I hear you.
All right, I am here. I don't know what's going on. Stan, Jai wants to know if you're connected to your computer only, or is it Brian? It's you can't have two connections. I don't know if that's what's happening. Yes, Luz and I got Luz. All right, so let's just continue. Stan, I don't know if you're able to hear us, or Brian.
I think it's Brian's phone.
Mm. And I see.
Why don't you guys write down in the chat box while we're fixing the technical support what you guys do to reconnect with your mindfulness?
I apologize, everyone. I was really not expecting this at
I'm going to
all.
leave and come right back.
It's a lot of feedback on there. All right, I am all right. Luz and I. All right, they're trying to come back. So
Um,
I'll keep going because I can definitely carry what mindfulness is. But mindfulness is so important because every moment, like Lou said, is so precious. Every breath, every moment. And when things like this happen, it is that time that we take. Like right now, I could freak out and be upset. I can't believe this is my first webinar. But I don't have control over my computer. I don't have control over everyone else's computer. So I already know I can relinquish and let go of that. I don't have control over it. I only have control of me and my end, and that's all I can do right in this moment. So it's taking that, just instead of letting your emotions and thoughts run rampant while something isn't going the way you want, then you should just, even if you don't know how you want to calm down or what's the next step, just stop and take a deep breath and then go from there. And if it takes you three deep breaths, then do so. Because that usually by then your body is calm, then your brain is calm, and then you can move forward onto what you can tackle next. So for me, I can't, right? I already have Stan and Brian. Brian, and they just have to come back whenever they can. And I have to carry on my conversation. This is funny, and I normally a person would be upset, but this is a great example for mindfulness, right? Like this couldn't be like it, the best example happening as all this is crashing and not happening, and but it's great. I have the audience. I have all of you. You guys are great right now, giving me so amazing support on the chat. Roxana, Claudia, Jesse, Jacob, my brother Oscar. This is all wonderful. So, here we are trying to maneuver the situation as best we can, and that's all you can do with life. Is all you can do is what you can do with what you know now, and go from there. You can't really do more than you don't have, right? This is all I know. This is all I can do. I have this platform, and I'm doing the best I can. Let's move forward and see what flows in. If Brian and Dan are able to come back, fantastic. Right, I got loose. Yay!
Las
So yeah,
mujeres.
no, this is great. So this is why it is important. Mindfulness is just taking a moment at a time. You could be stressed at work, coming home to your kids and your husband or wife or significant other, or however the situation is that you have at home. Just take it easy. Just take it one step at a time. During this pandemic, it is so important, right, Lou? So important to not stress enough. Like, just take it easy. Nobody's been in this situation. I hope to our future never to be in this situation. So we could possibly pave the way for maybe something like, okay, we already knew how to struggle through a pandemic, right, Luz?
Yeah, so I have a question
Yeah.
here. It says, how can I practice mindfulness on a daily basis? And one of the notes that I wanted to put here is experiment. Put a note reminder everywhere. So there was a moment in time when I, not one, but many, but one in particular, when I was really experiencing some difficulties, difficulty in my environment, difficulty with my children, difficulty in a breakup. And it was as if I was raw. I couldn't be. I was going to crumble, but nobody could see it because of course I had to be strong. I have 3 children and my family, they depend on me. So I literally purchased a bumper sticker that said breathe, and I put it on my closet door. And I put another one that says angels are around me. So when I woke up, I saw it. And have you ever had a drink of something, when you're thirsty and you're hot and you take a gulp and it goes right through you and it like soothes you and it's like, it's so refreshing and fulfilling. This is how a breath should be. When you take in a deep breath, imagine the cells of your body filling up with the oxygen they need to go empower your body to do what it has to do. And when you exhale, you're giving back to the world what you're receiving: gratitude and generosity and appreciation. Take a deep breath in. And it's like you're swallowing some refreshing water or whatever you guys like to drink. Hold it and then exhale it and give it back to the earth as fertilizer. Remove the toxins from the body and give it back with appreciation. And with every breath, I could see the cells in my body ready, saying, yes, Luz, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to tackle? Where do you want us to head? And so that was something that I can do to practice daily meditation, daily mindfulness.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to tackle a misconception of mindfulness. People think yoga, meditation, and if you can't do both, you're useless or you give up, and that's not the case. Mindfulness is not only to those two types of practices. Yoga and meditation are types of practices of mindfulness. They aren't the only one. Gardening is mindfulness. Singing, cooking, cleaning. If you're that person who has OCD and they just get lost in it, that's your place. And when you are in your place, since it is a meditation and you're not trying to uh be aware of your thoughts, but be mindful while you are doing your favorite things and you're fully immersed in it. While you're in it, let's say you're gardening and you're putting a pot in there,
Yes.
and then you're like, oh, tomorrow I gotta do this, and then I have to do. Be in there. Just talk to the plant, or just be in there with yourself, like you're cooking. Okay, now I have to cut this. Now I have to. If you have to be your own like protagonist of your show, just so you're in the moment. If that helps you, then try that. There's so many ways. Like Lucy's saying, there's different ways to be here now. And that's what Presently Aqui is about. It's just being here in the now and how we can attain that, especially because there's so many things bombarding us, overwhelming us. It's just nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. And it's just like, whoa, just take it back. What is it that I enjoy? What calms me? What is it that soothes you? About bubble baths? I don't know what it is, whatever it is, reading a book, find some solace in that calmness and take that time for yourself. And if you aren't, taking that time for yourself, it's just going to come to you. It's going to just build up, and just it's just going to be worse whenever you have to deal with, say, a partner. The person closest to you always gets it the worst. uh my family and I are really well aware of that. But it is the closest person always gets it the worst, so you have to be aware that you're not being a dump, you're not dumping on someone either. That isn't fair. Having open communication also helps. If you're having a problem, if you don't want to talk about it, you can say that, actually, right now I'm not in a space where I want to talk about this, or maybe we can talk about this later. Because if you're not setting space and boundaries for people to learn, we're just going to continue assuming that you're okay, right, Luce? Like, we're just going to keep like, oh, well, Luce is fine. She's always like, she's fine, she's fine, she's fine. And she doesn't express, then we're not going to know what's going
Well,
on.
and there's something that I'd like to add as well when it comes to family. How many times are we in the thought of, okay, you're okay, you need to eat, you need to dress, you need to accomplish this, check, 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 check. And again, how many times are we here? The longest journey you will ever take in your life is from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is, again, imagine drinking that delicious glass of water. Like Jai said earlier, it's a way to love ourselves. When we drink that glass of water, we're connecting. So when you see your child, and one of the children here recently just wrote a Y. When you see your child with this new appreciation, as if you just put on fresh glasses. And instead of coming from here, come from here. And it's not only your child, but your partner, your animal, your sibling, your neighbor. Try to come from here and ask yourself, how would it feel if I knew that I were literally connected to every single person and thing that I saw? And breathe that in. How would it feel if I were conscious of the connection that I have with you at this moment? No matter what you do, you can be like, hey, screw you. I don't know who you are. Thank you. The question is, can I be in here? Right. And when I have a conflict with a loved one or with someone, I literally have to ask myself, do I want to create distance from this person? And this is where mindfulness steps in, because I'm being mindful now of my actions. Do I want distance from this person? And sometimes the ego part of me is like, yeah, I can't take this person anymore. So I ask myself, is this leading us to connect, or is this leading us to separate and isolate myself? So if I don't, it's really a sense of being vulnerable, opening up yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability doesn't mean you're ready to be attacked and be hit or be dumped on. It just means you're ready to communicate
Right.
in a sense that's about responsibility and accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're leading on to the next question, which is how does it affect our family dynamic, right? When we aren't expressing
Yeah.
these parts of ourselves, right, Luz? So like you have kids and a husband, and if you aren't communicating your needs, and they just like, oh, Luz is are my wife and my mom. She's incredible. She'll do anything we want, and it's just like she's not. She's human. We all are, and no one is perfect, and we especially I think as a mom we put moms as in a pedestal like super moms, right? And they're not human, and that's kind of that's not fair for the human side of your mom. She also is a person with feelings and a past before you were even born, and we have to also give them that space, right? It's not mom is for me only, me, and it's what does she need, what does Mother's Day is not the one day, right, Luz? It's just
Right.
it's having this
And if I
mutual
can
understanding. Yeah.
I can share. I have a very deep personal experience that happened to me. So I have three children. My husband, he's my partner. We're not really married, but my partner, he has two children and he has shared custody. Now, there's some conflict, as some people experience, between exes, and what happened between his ex-wife and their children had entered our home. There was brainwashing, I should just say, of, that's not really the place to be. You don't really want to be there. That house is
Yeah.
not fun. It basically developed, and I wasn't using my mindfulness. I was reacting. I was being triggered. The children were coming into the home and they were like, we don't really want to be here. We'd rather be at home with mom, affecting my partner, him being triggered. And then him being triggered, then I was triggered. And it was really a domino effect. And this is where I put the pieces together. Do I want to connect, or do I want to isolate, protect, and defend? It's really a conscious question that you have to ask yourself moment by moment. And time again, all of us in the house were presented with the idea of, are we willing to be vulnerable and have something that takes courage, which is communicate our feelings and be within breath and connected. And it was amazing. It was like night and day when that switch happened, when I was ready to step up and go beyond the fear within myself. When there were, and children are really very open, and they really pick up from us when we're like trying to hide something, or we're in avoidance when we don't want to see something. So it was a very beautiful experience.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we really have to take those opportunities. we're still having difficulties, as you can
difficulties,
see.
as you can see.
Brian and Stan
Brian and
are
Stan
in
are in
internet
internet
hell
hell
somewhere.
somewhere.
We're all trying to
We're
figure
all
this
trying to
out.
figure this out.
But no, back to
But no, back to
what you were
Can you
saying.
guys
what
hear
you were
me
saying.
okay? I can see and
It's
hear
so
you just
important
So
fine.
important
No?
to
to
have these
have
conversations
these
with our
conversations with
family
our
and make them
family and make them
understand,
understand.
because also,
Because
you know,
also,
this is
this is
relatively new
relatively new
mindfulness to
mindfulness
majority
to
of
majority
the
of
society,
the
but
society,
it
but
isn't new
it
in
isn't new
general.
in general.
It's been around
It's been
for
around
forever, for a long
forever,
time.
for a long time.
I would even
I
say
would
the
even say
Buddhists
the
were aware,
Buddhists
the
were aware,
Chinese
the
were
Chinese
aware.
were aware.
It's just disguised in
It's just
different
disguised in different
situations,
situations,
and
and
it's basically the same thing,
it's
just
basically the
being
same thing,
present,
just being
because
present, because
the next moment
the
isn't
next
promised
moment
to
isn't
anyone, and
promised to
it's about
anyone, and it's
what
about
we have
what we
now.
have now.
Tomorrow isn't promised,
Tomorrow
so what do
isn't
I have
promised, so
now?
what do
Instead
I
of
have
just
now?
like,
Instead of just like,
oh, just dump
oh,
on
just
yourself,
dump on
dump, dump,
yourself,
dump,
dump, dump,
and
dump,
today
and
sucked, and
today
oh well.
sucked, and oh
Yes,
well.
tomorrow is another
Yes, tomorrow
day,
is
but
another day,
also
but also
when you're done being down, take a moment to just, what did I learn today? What moments were teachable? What were my triggers? Why do I feel this way? The world isn't trying to pick you and say, oh, today is so and so's crappy day, I'm gonna make it worse. It doesn't work like that. It's really your perspective. You really have to shift this self-talk that you have, that we all have conditioned. It's gonna take time. Mindfulness is not gonna come to you tomorrow. It just takes every moment you practice it every day, just like anything else. You become more and more self-aware, and you're the winner here. The more self-aware you becoming the winner, you're diving inside yourself and asking those questions like, okay, today was a really bad day. Why? You owe that to yourself. Why was it today? What was my lesson? What did I learn? So that way you're able to grow and change. Okay, maybe next time I shouldn't have said this, or maybe next time I should, whatever it is that you feel like you could have done different, because you can only control yourself, not the other person's words, needs, nothing. You cannot control anyone outside of yourself. I know it's really hard, really, really hard for a lot of people, because some of us have control issues. And you can have the worst control issue, but at the end of the day, it's not going to give you that control. You're just going to self suffer, keep just self suffering, and you're not going to be happy because things didn't work out the way you wanted, exactly like this webinar, right? And I could just be like, oh, well, whatever, and give you all, you guys, all this mood, right? And then no one's gonna want to stay and want to watch this, because at the end of the day, besides it, I want to be happy. I want all of you to be happy as well and enjoy this conversation. And I am happy that, yeah, things didn't work out and I don't have Stan and Brian here. It would have been wonderful. A lot of things would have been wonderful in life, right? We can all sit here and be like, that could have been, that could have been, that could have been, but it didn't. And there is always a reason. Yes, it's cliche, but there's always a reason, right, Luz? There's always some, whatever it is, but you also have to be mindful, and it'll come to you. You'll see the reason. The reason just doesn't go anywhere and disappears. You have to also want to see what that could have been. Like, oh, this is probably why. But for next time, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So this is
and may I even add a great tip? Anybody go through something recently that has triggered them? I don't know if you're wanting to chat about it or put something down, but a great tip is to go back to that space and ask yourself, how could I have done it if I was coming from love? How could I have done it if I was the observer at that moment? How could it look differently? So I invite you to experiment with that idea, a moment that has just triggered you. Sense what's happening in your body. I know with me, my body's really communicating with me. And when I'm sometimes in a thought that connects to fear or power struggle, or I feel like I have to defend myself, or etc., then I could feel something in my throat, like a lump in my throat, or I could feel pounding in my chest. I'm sure you all had felt something like that. An elephant has just landed on me. Oh my God, I got a migraine out of the blue. Your body's communicating with you. You're not in the my flowness that Claudia mentioned earlier.
Right.
So if you want to shift into the mindfulness, if you want to really think about practicing, take a breath. How would this moment look like if it were not true? How would this moment look like if I could connect to the observer self, or if I could connect to love and communicate from a space of connection?
Right.
So that's a little practice tip that I'd like to share with you.
That's
Practice and let
fantastic.
us know how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to hear back, all the tricks and tips that you've learned from, hopefully is mindfulness or doing your own research. Because we all are different. That's one thing that I've learned through yoga, is that also yoga became such a fad, but the teachers weren't really teaching that we all have different bodies. So we all cannot attain a handstand, a headstand like that. Some of our bodies don't go there, you know, and we all think that we can, and then no one tells you that. So and also yoga is non-competitive, so you start, that's not helping you. Now you dislike yoga because you can't do this and you can't. So it's how everything is presented as well, to you. Also acknowledge that when people present things, it might not rub you the right way, and then later on someone else might have presented you in a different way, and you're like, oh, if it was presented to me in this way, I would have, welcomed it. But it just depends on you. Find That's what the mindfulness is. Just find yourself, find what works for you, what mindfulness practices help. Is it the breathing? Is it your favorite hobby? Is it maybe speaking to someone? Just, you have to take an opportunity for yourself, because it will affect your family as well if you aren't taking care of yourself, and then you start becoming that the dumper on someone because you aren't mad, because you're mad. And this is another thing I wanted to tackle that's really funny. uh Luz, you're welcome to tap into this, but one thing I wanted to touch up on is when we're angry. When we're angry, I the next time you feel triggered or angry, I want you to take a moment and, what does that feel like in your body? Where in your body are you holding that anger, that tension? Right? Where is it? Is it my shoulders, my back, my neck? Is it, what is it? And is it a trigger that happens often? Is it just a once in a while? Why are you so angry? And just kind of start dissecting. Basically, it's just dissecting these things about yourself. That's how you start to discover who you are. Oh, when my brother calls me this name, this nickname, it triggers me like this. And I know they're watching, so that's why I'm using them. If they use a nickname, they're going to trigger me. And why does it trigger me? Why is it bothering me when they're just joking? Right? What is it? It's something that maybe I need to say and create a boundary and say, hey, maybe this nickname isn't so fun for me. But I don't really care. I'm already used to all of them. But it's just that. It's just breaking apart yourself. Like, why am I happy? Why am I sad? Why am I feeling like this, like that? Just, we have so much time being home now. So I want you to take this time to just do this for yourself. It's not about Luz. It's not about anyone. It's about you and the people in your life, and how they're going to be affected by the love that you're giving yourself. Is just going to come out, and just, people are just going to reciprocate. Even if we have a loved one or family that isn't in a mindful mindset, um, they eventually will come around. This is really hard for a lot of people to change and rediscover themselves, if that's something they want to do. So it's just being very patient with yourself. You have to be self-forgiving and not judge. We already have this world judging us and giving us crap all the time, and not helping us, with our self-esteem. And so this is where you take that hold of yourself, and you're like, no, actually, I know myself. No, I know this about me. And no, and if it takes you writing a journal, if it takes you doing voice memos. I do voice memos. Sometimes I get lazy and I don't want to write a whole thing, and I'll do a voice memo just to get it out of myself, to dissect what's coming out, and be like, okay, so now that this is said, let's break it up, let's break it down, and what does that look like? And you know and taking accountability. Maybe while I was interacting with this person, I in my defense, I said it this way. Maybe I could have verbalized it in a more loving way, right, Luz? Like, it's more if you're coming from a place of love, and that's what we're trying
Right.
to give the message, right? It's just come
Yeah.
from a place of love. We're all struggling. Like, this is the world's like craziest situation we'll live through in our lifetime. Just, yes, when you're mad, try to remember when you're reacting, take a breath. And if you feel like you can't communicate with that person, take a break. Be like, you know what, I can't do this right now, and just walk away. And you just, better to have nothing said than things that you'll regret later. The heat of the moment just takes us, and we all know that it takes us to a place, and we sometimes can't come back from what the things we say, and you don't want that. So that's what we're trying to give you, these tools. The breath is so important. Breath is number one. That will always bring you back to the now. If you forget, just come back. Just come back and forgive yourself. And it's okay. We only can do what we can at the best of our time right now. This is impossible for me to ask all of you to be like, okay, tomorrow you're gonna be great. You love each other, love yourselves and everyone, and that's not how it works. Anything worth having takes time and work, and you are worth having and working for. No one's going to love you more than yourself. And once you do, the rest of the world has no choice but to do the same.
For sure. Am I coming through now?
So,
Yes.
right,
Yes, we
Luz?
could hear you.
Okay.
Stan is there. Did you hear him?
No,
Well,
I sadly couldn't.
I
Oh,
literally,
he's speaking right now.
I literally left. I burned my computer to the ground. I did that all in a very calming, loving way. And then I bought a new one. I don't even know what happened. I'm glad I heard everything that Claudia just said, which was amazing. I'm glad to be back, and my apologies for you all, but kudos to Luz and Claudia for being as cool, calm, and what better way to practice mindfulness than when you're forced to be mindful.
And Stan, how do you handle anger? Can you hear me?
I don't,
I can't hear Stan, but yeah, let me know.
I'm sorry. What's that?
How do you handle anger, Stan?
It's tough because I really think that, heck, sometimes you're angry and you don't always understand why. But being more willing to break the habit of being myself, and that means just constantly trying to evolve and understanding, who we become is largely based on the kind of questions we ask ourselves daily. And I find myself asking more difficult questions, and that's like, why am I angry? And today I was talking to my wife. I was like, I think I'm moody. I don't even know what that means to say, like something's up with me. And when you realize that something is up with you,
Hear if Stan is speaking already.
when you feel like something is up with you, then willing to figure out what the root cause is. And in our communities, again, the Black and Brown communities, there's so many different things that we are rooted in. That, let's say, from a media standpoint, we've been led to believe. All of us don't understand what we come from. We don't understand that we came from riches and kings and queens and magnificent feats. What we understand is a lot of places that we're from. Yes.
Yes. Stan is mentioning about his experience with anger and his background as a Black and Brown human in this earth, and how he handles his situations every day.
So
I can't hear him. I'm so upset, but
I can hear you, which is odd. What's some conspiracy? They're trying to. They don't want us to be great out here, but we're gonna be great no matter what. We're already. So I think that as communities, understanding where we come from riches. Sometimes when you don't know where you came from, it's difficult to get to where you want to go. So we came from love, as been mentioned a couple times. We've come from peace, and while there have been trials and tribulations, we've worked beyond those things. So, long answer to your short question about what I do about anger. I'm so much better about breathing and being active. It's like we have to be willing to take a walk, to run, to do some push-ups or sit-ups or jumping jacks, to do something with that extra energy
Mhm.
And I'll certainly turn it back. And then there's understanding like how the brain works. Like the brain is to keep us comfortable, to keep us alive. So we find ourselves doing the same thing over and over because that's what's comfortable. That's what's keeping us alive. So if we can, again, be more intentional about breaking the habit of being ourselves, then we'll find ourselves stretching the box and not necessarily jumping out of the box.
And I'm so happy you said that because I really feel COVID is the great disruptor. Everyone has been taken out of their comfort zone. Everybody has been forced to stretch beyond. We were all in our regular routines and we were excited. We had our plans. Everything was going as, as we had, strategized basically. And then all of a sudden, the whole world has been halted. We've all had to learn how to breathe again. Basically, we've all learned that we have no control over the external, only over the internal. And yeah, I love what you mentioned about having to be willing to stretch yourself.
That question right there, like the question we almost have to wake up with in the morning is, am I willing? Because we know that
Yeah,
some
what can we
challenges
say?
are
And
going
our
to
brain is
happen.
trying to protect us as
Every day is not
yes,
the
when we feel
same,
uncomfortable, when we feel
right?
insecure.
So am I willing? Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to listen? Am I willing to be quiet? Am I willing to be humble? Am I willing to be nice? Like those are questions that are important to mindfulness, because if you again, the power of the questions you ask yourself will determine who we become. Well, now we have to start to ask, like, are we asking our young people questions? Are we encouraging them to ask themselves questions? So we're not giving them all the answers. They begin to seek them for themselves. And here's the last piece, only because I've been watching some things recently about the notion of countries being referred to as third world and what that means. And listen, these countries that so many of the folks watching are on right now, the countries that people are from are not third world. Now, there may be poor people, which there are everywhere. But what folks need to understand is they come from wealth in every way, shape, and form. If you get from Puerto Rico to Mexico to any other Latin American country that may exist across the diaspora, like they're riches that are being taken from lands and then exploited in other places and made money. But what I do understand though is this entire time, even as an adult, and this is me not speaking for, let's say, brown folks and my brown brothers and sisters, this is having that understanding for my entire life. Oh, this third world country or this person is from a third world. Now, understand as a young person being told, I know what I've been told as
Is
a
this
black
Stan
kid,
talking?
but
Sorry.
as a
Okay.
young person being told that they're from a third world place before they even know who they are as a collective from the inside out, at least as you said, that does something to someone. So I think it's important as we grow and develop our minds and the minds of our young people, that they know where they came from and how strong they are from the inside out, as we have these more complicated conversations about how do we strengthen our mind, how do we strengthen our body and our soul so we can be better every day, even on the days that aren't that easy.
So, Claudia, we just ended a beautiful message from Stan. And one of the things that was so impactful is asking yourself, are you willing? Am I willing? Am I willing? Fill in the blank. And I love that question because am I willing to connect?
Yeah.
I often ask myself that question when I have a power struggle with someone, when I'm having a conflict or I'm feeling moody, as Stan mentioned earlier. Am I willing to be the observer and see myself as sometimes the words are coming out of my mouth? Am I willing to take a breath and relax and not be so ready to fill a space
Right.
or too laid back? Just am
Right.
I ready to be myself? So I'll give it back to you, Claudia.
Great. Well, I wanted to take this chance to do a little Q&A if anybody has any questions for Stan or Luz or all of us in regards to your journey on your new mindfulness or your currently mindfulness journey. If there's anything that we can do to help or any questions that you may have, I think we have a question here. Um, let's see here. The chat is a little slow for me, Lou. So if you see anything on your end,
Um,
please feel free. As
Liz,
I
can I
am
throw something out
trying
there?
So Stan wants to hop in for a second.
Yes, please.
Here's, because mindfulness and let's say meditation seems so far out. And I'm not a yogi. I yoga every once. I say it like it's dancing. I yoga every once. Like yoga's real, but I do, try to meditate daily. And that seems like such a far out place for some folks, especially in our communities. And I feel like we need to have pride in sharing with people that that's something that we do, right? Because it's like when you hear your favorite song, your favorite movie, we talk about that. But then mindset and meditation and mindfulness, kind of like, oh, we don't really mention that unless it's private. So for those folks who do meditate and practice mindfulness, we should begin to share that more. For those who are a little bit intimidated by it and don't know how to do that, like literally 15 seconds when you wake up in the morning. You can start at 15 seconds. And one of my secret, I'll call it a secret meditation, is every time I wake up, it's certainly as I'm falling asleep. They say you're not supposed to meditate as you're falling asleep, but I do it to help me fall asleep. I will simply recite peace, love, health, wealth, happiness. Peace, love, health, wealth. I'll say that over and over again. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the morning because sometimes our days begin how our nights ended. And I wish for those things, or I mention those things because those are all things that I wish for myself and the people I share time and space with. And there's no stress associated with those things. So for those of y'all who are working on their meditation game, start with 15 seconds a day. You have it. We have it. Do it as if your life and your mind depend on it because it does.
Oh, beautiful. So Stan just said, basically, yes, what Jessica said as a mantra. So Stan talks about how he talks about peace, love. What was the order?
Health, wealth, and happiness.
Health, wealth, and happiness. And every night he says that, and it ends up putting him to sleep. One of the techniques that I learned personally is um, breathing. So I breathe and I imagine the air, the light and the air and the oxygen and light coming in through the soles of my feet and slowly going all the way up, up, up through my knees, all the way up through the pelvis, slowly going all the way up through my body and extending from the top of my head. And notice if you try that and slowly you bring that light up, 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 and there's certain parts where you'll stop and sometimes you'll fall asleep at that point, or sometimes you'll get distracted and you say, I can't do that. Pay attention to what part of your body that happens to, because there could be some obstruction of energy in that part of your body, something that needs a little more attention. And this is in my field of emotional awareness. Um, Different body parts have different messages for you to be aware of. And we can go into another discussion at another date. But I want you to be aware of that. I also go through the colors of the chakras, the rainbow orders. If you don't know it, it's red, and red leads up to orange leads up to yellow to green to blue to indigo, and then purple. So again, take a look and imagine the whole environment around you with those colors and see if the colors are a vibrant, beautiful color or if it's a dull and murky color, because that also gives you some information.
Right, right. And that's kind of like using visualization, right, to help you. It's
Yeah, and I also have spoken with some people who have addictions, and usually late at night, people are on the phone or on Instagram or pornography or gambling or buying or shopping, etc., watching housewives of who knows what city and town. But the thing is that you have to ask yourself, is this taking me away from my purpose? Sometimes we've justified all of these behaviors. Is this taking me away from my purpose, from my strength, from my place in this world? What is my message?
right,
Go back to breathing, go back to the mantra, go back to envisioning what your goal is and what you want to create, because that's a distraction, to be honest.
right. And one thing I wanted to add for the audience to also be conscious of is, are you a good listener? Yes, you can work on this, but if you're not also listening to whoever needs an ear or just anything, are you just listening, or are you listening to answer already? That's really important. You have to then you're not being in the moment. You're ready to give this person an answer or a question, or and also keep in mind that as you're practicing mindfulness, we're human, so we're not going to be perfect every day. We may know these things, and we've had great moments with ourselves, and then one day it's just like, I can definitely speak on, as women, right, that once a month that the devil walks takes over us, and then we like mindfulness is out the door. But it's also being mindful that that's gonna happen. So it's just what works for you when you are gonna be triggered because you are on your menstrual. What triggers you when you're not in a good mood. These little things, just it's every day. It's a little thing for yourself. No one's saying tomorrow you gotta do all of this for yourself. Just one step at a time. Um, I don't know. I can't hear Stan, but I don't know if Stan wanted to add to that.
I know.
Loose, if
Yeah.
PR.
Yeah, he's all excited, getting ready to answer.
Please go,
I'm
please.
humble in you all's presence. That's number one. And I want to say officially to the Latinistas, thank you for having me. Obviously, Claudia and Luz, thank you for being patient with me. I tell you what, without great women, where would we be and where would men be? That's not. I'm not going to throw that out.
He said, without great women, where would men be?
So, right? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But
We do our best. I mean, not me. I don't have kids, but
to your point, it's
And
like
so
let's.
he's gonna finish. Sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
no.
it's like
Okay.
in comedy.
No, please.
Like what makes things funny is calling attention to the obvious, but that also, brings attention to things that need to be brought attention to. So when there is something wrong, it's like being willing to, hey, something's wrong. I'm not feeling like me, or something is up. And then you don't have to play as much cat and mouse. And while sometimes we love for people to read our minds, it could create a more peaceful place when they don't have to. And to your point, Luce, regarding being tuned into so many different things and it taking us away from what we could be working on, another question I'm beginning to ask myself, am I creating or am I consuming? Because there's so much to consume, but we can use some of that time to create. So trying to be more intentional about that time, like more on purpose. Like networks, media is super intentional about what they do and how they do it, and rightfully so. That means that if it works for them, if it works on you, it can work for you. And that we should be just as intentional about the same things.
Yes. Am I creating or am I consuming? I totally agree. It's like, am I connecting or am I isolating? It's really a moment by moment question that we ask ourselves. And the other thing I would like to say, it's just like breathing. Sometimes we're like, oh, I can't anymore. Well, do you say that about breathing? No. So one is conscious and one is unconscious. We need to bring the conscious back up to light.
I see you dropping some bars.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
You don't think about breathing. Sorry.
I'm a little sad that I can't see or hear Stan.
You can't see me.
I'm glad that the audience got to hear what he has to say, which is always wonderful. If you don't follow him, you should. He helped me a lot to visualize this dream, and Luz, thank you so much for being my brainstorming partner. I truly appreciate you taking the time as well. And I'm sad that Brian wasn't able to get on. And Brian had a 5 minute
Next time, that
breathing.
means everybody has to come back for next time, right?
Ah, yeah, that's it. And Brian had a breathing
Take
exercise
two.
for all of us too. So hopefully next time that would be great. So that way you all have an understanding of where he's coming from and why the breath is so important to help you as your beginning point to mindfulness. Before I close out, since I can't hear Stan Luz, does Stan want to add anything?
Sam, would you like to add anything?
Thank you for calling attention to something that is super important to our communities. That's number one. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this panel. And as always, I wish everyone much peace, love, health, wealth, and happiness. De aquí en adelante always. Siempre. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. So he said a message in Spanish. Say it one more time.
No, I wish everyone much peace, love, health, wealth, and happiness. De aquí en adelante, siempre.
De aquí en adelante para siempre. Health, wealth, happiness, and the other ones are so fast. I posted a link. It's a communication toolkit, and it talks about mindfulness. It's just a few blurbs on information for emotional intelligence, a little something to give you, you could print out and you could post it anywhere in the house. Also follow us on Instagram. I'm EQ Refined. And Stan, you want to give your handle?
Yep, I'm just at the real Stan P. That's in case someday somebody wants to be the fake one. But at the real Stan
And
P.
Brian is at Driven Group. And I am at Presently Aqui. If we're already friends, you don't have to look for me. I just changed my name on my Instagram. Um, I just want to thank Stan, Luz, and Brian for being patient through all this technical difficulties and for just showing up for me. And I am deeply, deeply grateful. And I'm just glad that the audience got to hear all of us and share a little bit of what mindfulness is. And I do hope that we can come back and redo this. Um, so thank you, Stan. Thank you so much.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you, Luz. So as I'm closing out, everyone, thank you, Luz. Um, I just want to say that I hope that all of you took a little something today that will help you on your path of mindfulness. It's a hard path, but like I said, you're worth every moment that we're alive to work on yourself and love yourself. Um, Tune in next month. Next month, I'm hoping to tackle to retrain our brain because that's something that's close to what we just spoke about. That's something we need to know. So how do we start? How do we begin? How do we like trick the brain a little bit? So that'll be in November. And if any of this resonated with you, please subscribe, like, comment, or message me and the panelists if you have any questions regarding mindfulness at work, with your family, speaking, anything that you may need from us. Please feel free. And again, thank you to all my panelists for being here today, and a great big thank you to my audience and everyone who supported me. Thank you so much, and I wish you all love, safety, and health. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care.